You can create a new rota directly from the navigation, or from the rota list page, click on the green Add Rota button. Here you'll see there are variables perhaps in your rota name, but you can just change these. You can choose a colour for your rota, and you can set the start and end times for the period for which your rota covers. Your Alpaka super user will have created shifts for you, so you can add the shifts that you intend to use, but you can do that at any time. And you can choose the site and the department for which this rota is relevant, and that helps keep your rota list easy to use. With your rota created, you can now start to add team members to it, either one at a time or two at a time, or by clicking on the ellipsis button here, which reveals more options, and we can find people by their site or their department or their tags. Once you have a group of people in this field here, click on the green plus button to add them to the rota. Now that we have team members, we can start allocating shifts. Each time you click into one of the grid cells, it rotates around the shifts available to you, and then the last click will clear the cell. This way I can be adding a late shift to Kate here throughout the end of that week. If I want to do this quickly, I can remove the other shifts and only have to click once to apply the shift that remains on its own. And then to change that, if I add nights instead, I can now click nights very quickly like this. With all the shifts back in there, I can carry on adding shifts for these guys, and you'll see that the tally at the bottom will tell me the day and the week and the tally of each kind of shift I have. And that way, when there are a lot of team members in your rota, you can see exactly how many shifts you have allocated for that day. Now that I have shifts, I can continue to add more people. And at any time, I can remove people from the rota, or to do that another way, I can prune team members that do not have shifts. Other items from your team's schedule will appear as the hashed grey bars through a grid cell, but it's not always the case that it prevents you from adding a shift. In this case it does. It depends on the block settings given by your Alpaka super users as to whether or not you can create clashes with the schedule in your rota. The last things to look at in this rota view are the icons along the top here. Now you've seen what the ellipsis button does already. It shows more filtering options when choosing your team. Next to that is a size button, which changes the width of the columns in your rota grid. Now, no matter what the width are, provided there's more width than there is view, you can scroll left and right and see the whole rota period. The clone button here will take a copy of this rota and the team within it and clone it to immediately follow. So this way, your hardest rota you'll ever build will be the first one, and after that you can clone your rotas forevermore to follow what you've previously worked on. The download button will give you an Excel file of the rota and its contents, so you can print it out. And the manual refresh button should never need to be pressed, but if you suspect your team may have been adding things in their schedule in the meantime, or someone else is working on the same rota as you, if you press the manual refresh, it simply gets the latest information from the schedule and makes sure that you're not clashing as you build your rota. The notify button lets you choose an email template or a text message template to send to each of the team members in your rota so that you can tell them of their shifts and how they've been allocated. And the last thing to show you is the actions pane, where we can work on the events in this rota in bulk. We can turn them all into draft or confirmed statuses. You've already seen that we can prune the team members that feature here but have not been given any shifts, and we can reset the entire thing, which will remove all of these shifts and the team members from this rota. Lastly, if we ever need to remove a rota and never see it again, we can change its status from active to inactive, and as we turn it into inactive, it will delete all of the events that you've created in everybody's schedules.